Hey guys, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing okay. I'm going to give you a pretty detailed overview of this case, of this article, as opposed to read through the full article. It is fairly lengthy. That's really the reason I'm choosing not to go through it all. It just gets a little bit too much perhaps. So I'll just try to condense it a little bit. But I will give you all of the important information. I'll try to be very accurate. There is a link in the description, and it is actually a worthy read of the article. Just it gets a little bit too much to read it all out. If you do like the coverage of this topic, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit. So as I say, I'll start off with an overview. It's in regards to the murder of the young man that you see in front of you. His name is Sebastian Kalinowski. He died last August. He grew up in Poland and he came over to United Kingdom less than a year prior to his death. He was living with his mother and his stepfather, the mother's partner. They're both Polish, and the young man was beaten regularly. I'm going to say ritualistically, that could be the wrong word, but certainly regularly, primarily by the stepfather, but the mother would join in on several occasions. She would join in some capacity. So it seems accurate to say that the stepfather was the primary aggressor, would beat, torture, abuse Sebastian. But the mother would both verbally and physically join the beatings. Not to the same level as the stepfather, so there is that, but she would join. So not only is she an enabler, not only did she fail her own son, her own flesh and blood, 15-year-old Sebastian Kalinowski, by not stopping the stepfather, not calling the police, not running away, not saving her child. Not only is she an enabler, but she's also a participator. Now, the article, I'm going to say, isn't 100% informative, let's say, 100% informative in regards to the trial that's occurring. So there is a trial. Both the mother and the stepfather are currently on trial. The article hasn't explicitly stated the charges that they face. I'm guessing, I could be wrong, and I have to admit, as you guys will know if you do follow this channel, I'm not here to say I'm an expert at these things. I'm not a paid journalist. In fact, I'm not paid at all. I just read through typically the one article. I don't have the time to investigate really any further than that. So I'm sure the information is out there. I just can't go hunting for it myself due to time constraints. But essentially, I believe that they're both facing multiple charges, which I'm assuming includes murder charges. The article isn't explicit on that point, but that's my interpretation, that both the mother and stepfather are facing murder charges. Now, already, the trial's currently on. It will probably go on for 1 to 2 weeks, perhaps a little bit more, but that's typical for a United Kingdom trial, I believe. Murder trial. The stepfather has already pled guilty to manslaughter. So he will be jailed. He will face a jail sentence. However, the trial is still ongoing. I'm assuming that he may yet be found guilty of murder in addition to manslaughter, or perhaps the murder charge supersedes the manslaughter charge. However that works. Hopefully that hasn't been too much of a ramble, but Sebastian Kalinowski died last August of an infection caused by untreated complications of multiple rib fractures. This happened in their Yorkshire-based home. They lived in Huddersfield, West Yorkshire, and some of the abuse was captured on CCTV. And they had CCTV in the home. Why? That's a little unusual, but it was to basically spy on, to monitor young Sebastian. So they could, it was just another form of torture, really, I would suggest. But in any case, there were several videos which were shown to the jurors during the trial, which is still ongoing, showing, again, primarily the stepfather beating Sebastian, but his mother also being involved on several of the beatings. As such, the prosecution are arguing that both the mother and the stepfather are guilty of murder. The mother's defense is that she did not, whatever the right word is, but she did not throw the fatal blows which caused the rib fractures on Sebastian, which subsequently caused his death. She's saying that she's not guilty. She's also saying that she did not want the stepfather to kill Sebastian. That's her plea. Now, in addition to that, she has cried in front of the court saying that she's the one that should have died. So she's shown some level of acknowledgement that she could have done more, but I don't even know if that's technically remorsefulness or not. But yeah, certainly the mother is pleading not guilty. She wants to get out of this. She doesn't want to go to jail. She led her son down. She participated in some of the beatings, but she doesn't want to get punished for it. She wants to get away with it. She also states that she was scared of the stepfather. Now, I would think that there's perhaps some truth to that. But does that excuse a mother from not doing anything? And this mother did worse than not do anything. Not only was she an enabler, not only did she wholeheartedly fail in protecting her son, but she joined in. She kicked Sebastian. She punched Sebastian. She hurled disgusting insults at Sebastian whilst, pardon my French, he was having the shit kicked out of him by the stepfather. Can you imagine that? You're a boy, your stepfather's beating the shit out of you. Again. The CCTV footage showed that the stepfather used bed slats, like the wooden planks underneath a bed. He was hit with bed slats. He was whipped with electrical cords. And whilst this is happening, whilst Sebastian's having the shit kicked out of him, yet again, his mother's joining in. His mother's throwing a punch, kicking him, insulting him, egging on the stepfather. I mean, that's torture. That is torture. That is emotional torture. How fearful would you be? How mentally lost would you be? How can you have a sense of self or a sense of anything other than sheer panic and sheer fear when that is your treatment when you're at home with your mother and your stepfather? That is so cruel. He was also forced to do exercise drills, which is something we've seen in a lot of similar cases where the parent or parents have essentially tortured and abused the child to the point of murder. Exercise drills. So that's really all of the information within the article. It is worth looking through if you feel you want to. There's a link in the description. It's an absolute tragedy. So 15-year-old Sebastian Kalinowski died as a result of the infections caused by the multiple rib fractures, which he received through the regular beatings from his stepfather whilst his mother joined in, and the trial continues. Absolutely sick. We hope that the both of them are found guilty of murder. So to be clear, the stepfather has already pled guilty to manslaughter, but I believe he is still facing charges for murder, and I hope that that's what they get. I'm going to go on a bit of a rant and say that I'm not an expert in United Kingdom sentencing, but from what I recall from the articles that I've gone over, I've gotten the impression that it's way too lenient. That even in those cases where the murderers are sentenced to life in prison, which is not necessarily the case, but even when that does happen, the murderers still get parole. You know, after 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, they still get parole. And that's an opportunity for them to get out of prison. A literal opportunity for them to get out of prison after, as I say, like in my mind, a shockingly low term. 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, whatever it happens to be. I'm also going to say this, from what I've seen, women in the United Kingdom, their sentencing is particularly lenient. Whether it's a sex assault case, a fraud case, a murder case, women seem to get really light sentencing. So I feel confident that the stepfather will get a murder charge. He'll be a murder conviction, rather. I don't feel fully confident that the mother will get a murder conviction. I think it's possible, but I think it's possible they may give her a pass. Charge her with manslaughter or, child abuse, a lesser charge. I think it's fairly possible, fairly likely that the stepfather will get life in prison, if convicted. But I think that there will be parole after too short a period of time, give or take 10, 12 years, something like that. That's my prediction. Could be entirely wrong. And I believe that the woman, the mother, she will be convicted of something, not necessarily murder, and I think she will not get life in prison. She will have a lot of leniency because she's a woman, and also because she has this argument. I'm not saying that I believe this argument, but she does have this argument. She's able to say that she was scared of the stepfather. She's able to say that. And with that, I believe she's going to win leniency. Perhaps in regards to the conviction, but certainly in regards to the sentencing. She's going to get away super light. I guarantee it. Not something that I'm happy with. I would like to see her. Both of them are involved with the murder of this 15-year-old young man, Sebastian Kalinowski, at the brink of his life, at the brink of adulthood. Not even able to enjoy his childhood because he has to live with these two scumbags that ritually abuse him, force him to do exercise drills, beat him, whip him with an electrical cord, beat him with a bed slats, cause multiple injuries. This is not a childhood. This is torture that he faced. And he wasn't able to pass that period. He wasn't able to get over it. He wasn't able to move on. The opportunity to have a continued life was taken away from him by his own mother and his own stepfather. And I guarantee the mother's not going to be treated as she ought to. She's going to get away with it. I can see it. She'll get convicted, but she's going to get less than 10 years. That's my prediction. So perhaps I'll do an update as and when the trial continues. As and when the trial ends. And, perhaps after sentencing, I'll do an update. If I've not done one, give me a nudge and I'll look into it. But I'm going to wrap things up here for now at this point. If I've done a half-decent job, I think I've done a half-decent job. I've not done a fantastic job. But if I have done a half-decent job, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit, and take care.